You see something you want. Maybe it's a new phone, a pair of shoes, and a watch, a better laptop, something for your room. Yesterday, you were completely fine without it. You weren't lying awake thinking about it. You weren't checking the price. You didn't even know you wanted it. Then you see it, and somehow it starts following you around. Not physically, in your head. You look at it again. You check the price. You watch a review. You imagine where you'd use it. You picture yourself owning it. And after a while, your brain quietly changes the sentence from, that would be nice, to, I really need that. So eventually, maybe you buy it. The box arrives. You open it. For a little while, it feels great. Then something strange happens. A few days pass. A few weeks pass. And this thing that occupied your thoughts becomes just another thing you own. Then one day, you see something else, and the whole process starts again. So here's the question. If the thing itself doesn't keep satisfying you, what were you actually wanting in the first place? Imagine you're scrolling on your phone. You're not shopping. You're just scrolling. Then you see somebody wearing a pair of trainers. Nothing dramatic happens. You keep scrolling, but later you see them again. Then you notice someone else wearing them. So you search the name, just to look. You tell yourself you're not buying anything. You check the colors. You check the price. 150 pounds, too much. Close the tab. And then you open it again the next day. Something has changed. Not the shoes. They're exactly the same shoes. Their importance has changed. Psychologists who study reward make a useful distinction here. There's the pleasure you get from something, and there's the motivation that pulls you toward it. Researchers often call these liking and wanting, and they are not exactly the same thing. Work associated with neuroscientists Kent Berridge and Terry Robinson shows that the brain systems involved in motivating us toward rewards can be partly separated from the systems involved in the pleasure we actually experience from them. Dopamine plays a major role in incentive motivation, in making rewards and reward-related cues feel worth pursuing. But that is different from saying dopamine simply equals pleasure. That matters, because it means you can strongly want something without necessarily liking having it to the same degree. Think about that pair of trainers. Every time you see them, the ad, the review, the influencer, the person on the train, the object gets another chance to capture your attention. And eventually the trainers stop feeling like just trainers. They become a target, something to move toward. But that still doesn't explain why one pair of shoes can start to feel so important. Because now something else begins happening. You stop imagining the shoes. You start imagining yourself with the shoes. This is where wanting gets interesting. You picture opening the box. You picture the first time you wear them. Maybe you imagine people noticing. Maybe you imagine looking better, feeling sharper, more successful, more put together, more like the version of yourself you're trying to become. And suddenly, you're no longer comparing your life with the shoes to your life without the shoes. You're comparing current you with imagined future you. And imagined future you looks pretty good. Consumer researchers have studied this connection between possessions and identity for decades. People don't always treat products as purely functional objects. Possessions and brands can become ways of expressing identity, both to other people and to ourselves. Consumer research has repeatedly examined how what we own can help communicate who we think we are or who we would like to be. That doesn't mean every purchase is secretly an identity crisis. Sometimes you buy a kettle because you need a kettle. Sometimes you buy new shoes because your old ones have holes in them. But think about the purchases you obsess over, the car you keep watching videos about, the watch you've saved, the phone upgrade you keep checking, the clothes you imagine yourself wearing. Often there is something attached to the object, a meaning, a story. Maybe the watch means, I'm finally doing well. Maybe the car means, people can see that I've made it. Maybe the clothes mean, this is the kind of person I am now. Products can also carry social signals. Research in consumer behavior has found that goods, particularly visible ones, can sometimes function as signals of status, identity, or group membership, which means sometimes you don't just want the thing, You want what the thing appears to say about you. And there's an even stranger part. Before you buy it, the object is almost perfect. Because the version in your imagination doesn't have scratches, you haven't grown bored of it. You haven't discovered the annoying little thing it does. And most importantly, you haven't had time to get used to it. It exists in a future where everything is still possible. So you keep returning to the page, and eventually, you press buy. Now the box is in front of you. This is the moment you've been imagining. You cut the tape, open the lid, take it out, brand new. For a while, it delivers. You look at it more than necessary. Maybe you send somebody a photo. Maybe you keep the packaging. Maybe you wear it immediately. And this part matters. The pleasure is real. This video isn't arguing that buying things never makes you happy. Of course, purchases can be useful, beautiful, fun, meaningful. Sometimes they improve your life enormously, but remember what happened before the purchase. You weren't only buying the physical object, you had already attached a future to it, and reality now has to compete with that future. The trainers are nice, but you still wake up as yourself. Your Monday is still Monday. Your problems are still waiting. And nobody stops you in the street to announce, "Congratulations, you finally become the person you imagine." The fantasy collapses into an ordinary object. And then the brain does something it is remarkably good at. It adjusts. Think about something you own now that once felt exciting. Your phone, your television, your headphones, your car, maybe even the room you live in. Remember the first day you had it. Now compare that feeling to today. The thing may not have changed much, but your experience of it has. Psychologists call this broad process hedonic adaptation. Positive changes can give us a boost, but over time some of that emotional impact often fades as the new situation becomes familiar. Research on consumption has examined the same effect with spending. The positive boost associated with a purchase can diminish as people adapt to what was once new. This is actually useful. Imagine if every object in your room remained as psychologically intense as the day you bought it. You'd never get anything done. Your brain normalizes things. The extraordinary becomes ordinary. The new phone becomes your phone. The new shoes become your shoes. The dream car eventually becomes the car with an empty fuel tank and a weird noise you should probably get checked. That doesn't mean the purchase gave you nothing. It means novelty cannot remain novelty forever. And this creates a problem. Because before buying something, we tend to focus heavily on the moment when our life changes. We imagine how good the upgrade will feel. But we spend much less time imagining the hundreds of ordinary Tuesdays that come afterwards. Research on effective forecasting, our predictions about future emotions, has repeatedly shown that people are imperfect at predicting how strongly and how long future events will affect their feelings. In your imagination, the new thing keeps being new. In real life, Wednesday arrives, and eventually the object disappears into the background, which brings us back to the problem. Because if the object becomes normal, what happens to the wanting? You're wearing the trainers. They're comfortable. You like them. Nothing is wrong. Then you see another pair. Maybe the newer version. Maybe a rarer color. Maybe someone you admire is wearing them. And for a second, your own shoes seem slightly less interesting. The finish line moves. You see this everywhere. Your phone is amazing. Until the next phone arrives, your salary felt enormous. Until your lifestyle expanded around it. Your car felt impressive. Until you started comparing it with a better one. The issue isn't simply greed. And it isn't that your brain is broken. Once the new thing becomes normal, it loses some of the psychological space it occupied before you owned it. And that leaves room for something else to become the target. So the cycle can restart. See, want, imagine, acquire, adapt, want again. And if you never notice the cycle, you can spend years believing satisfaction is sitting one purchase ahead of you. Just one upgrade. Just one better version. Just one more thing. And the marketplace will never run out of candidates. There will always be another shoe, another phone, another car, another watch, another house, another version of the life you could supposedly be living. But none of this means the correct response is never buy anything. That misses the point completely. The real question is much more useful. Go back to the beginning. You see something, you want it, but before you buy it, stop at the part we normally skip. Ask, what exactly am I expecting this thing to change? Maybe the answer is simple. My laptop is terrible, and this one will save me 2 hours every week. Great, that's real value. And maybe it's, I love these shoes. I can afford them. I'll enjoy wearing them. Also fine, but sometimes the answer is different. Maybe, I think people will respect me more. I think I'll finally feel successful. I think I'll become more confident. I think this will prove that I'm doing well. I think owning this version of the thing will turn me into that version of myself. And that's where wanting can become misleading, because the thing you're buying and the change you're hoping for aren't always the same thing, because an object might genuinely change what you have without changing what you were hoping to change about yourself. The deepest answer to our question is probably not one single thing. Human desire has many causes. Sometimes you want usefulness, sometimes pleasure, sometimes novelty, sometimes status, sometimes belonging. Sometimes you really do just love the object. But very often the thing becomes powerful because your mind has attached something bigger than the thing to it. A feeling, an identity, a possibility, a future. So the next time you desperately want something, don't only ask, do I want this? Of course you want it. Ask, what am I expecting this to change? Because sometimes you're buying an object, and sometimes you're trying to buy the person you imagine you'll become after you own it. And those are two very different purchases.